Okay, kids.
Well, I don't think that's an issue. If you,
This meeting of the Oak Park City Council is called to order. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
City Clerk Norris, would you call the roll?
Mayor McClellan,
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Burns, Councilmember Radner, Councilmember Edgar, Councilmember Whitehead.
We have a quorum. Is there a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved. Second.
Thank you. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried. We have a consent agenda. These are routine items presented for approval without discussion, but a council member can ask to have one dropped from the blanket motion and considered separately.
Mayor McClellan,
Yes.
can we consider item B, the request to approve the 2025 city council meeting dates off the consent agenda?
Absolutely. So far for the consent agenda then, we have item A, regular council meeting minutes for August 5th. C, request to approve the calendar year garage sale dates. D, new and renewal licenses for August 19th. E, public safety activity summary report for July 2024. F, request to approve payment application number 3 for the 2024 landscape maintenance contract to Capital Landscapes of Oak Park, Michigan, in the amount of $6,567. G, request to approve payment application number 4 for the 2024 lawn maintenance contract to Capital Landscapes of Oak Park, Michigan, in the amount of $20,185. Is there a motion to approve these items on the consent agenda?
So moved.
Second.
Second. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Please consider request to approve 2025 City Council meeting dates. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved. Second.
Thank you. City Council Member Julie Edgar, would you discuss your concerns?
Yes. We, October 7th is a Monday, and we would typically meet, but we have a holiday that day. That holiday extends through Wednesday, October the 8th. So if we could have our regular council meeting on the 9th, that would be,
Change to the
Good.
night. Is there, can that just be done administratively? Yes, done.
thank you.
We can make a friendly amendment.
Right. So then we are requesting to approve the city council meeting dates as amended, correct?
Yes.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried. Recognition of visiting elected officials. Don't see anybody. Special recognition presentations, public safety merit and unit citation presentation from Director Steve Cooper.
Good evening, Mayor, City Council, City Manager Tom Gate, Attorney Duff, and City
Clerk Ed Norris. I want to come before council this evening and thank you for allowing me this opportunity to present these awards to several members of the Public Safety Department for an outstanding job on a homicide which resulted in the victim, Mr. Daniel Hutchinson, business owner of Hutchins Jewelry in the city of Oak Park, losing his life. I'm going to call several officers up and a member from our dispatch staff to come up. As I call your name, I would ask that you come up, stand front and center, and turn and face the audience, please. Sergeant Detective Dwayne Green. Sergeant Detective Green is a 9-year veteran of the Oak Park Department of Public Safety. He's one of the commanding officers currently overseeing the Investigations Bureau. Sergeant Green is a highly decorated officer that has received numerous awards and citations throughout his distinguished career. Sergeant Green has served as a field training officer. He was promoted to the rank of detective, where he served as an investigator for several years. He was the investigator in charge of the Daniel Hutchinson homicide case, which is arguably the biggest case in the history of this department. We're extremely fortunate to have Sergeant Green as a member of our public safety team. I would ask at this time that retired Lieutenant Marlon Benson please come forward. It's an honor to have you back in the building after 26 years of distinguished service, sir. Lieutenant Benson has spent over 2 decades as a member of my executive management team. He received numerous awards and citations during his distinguished career. He's a graduate of the Northwestern School of Staff and Command. He served as a field training officer, a member of our crisis negotiation team, eventually taking over the team as a team commander. He was promoted to the rank of detective, where he served for many years. After serving as a detective, he was promoted to the rank of sergeant, becoming the department's first cold case sergeant. He was then promoted to the rank of patrol lieutenant. Lieutenant Benson spent the last 3 years of his career as the commanding officer of the Investigations Bureau, working intimately with Sergeant Green on the Daniel Hutchinson homicide case. Undoubtedly, Lieutenant Benson is a first ballot Hall of Famer. Lieutenant Benson is currently working as a dignitary protection specialist assigned to the President's office at the University of Michigan. And thank you for being here this evening, and welcome back home. I would ask for Lieutenant Paul Deswitz to come forward. Lieutenant Paul Deswitz is an 11-year veteran of the Oak Park Public Safety Department. He is also a highly decorated officer who has received numerous awards and citations during his distinguished career. Lieutenant Deswitz is the commanding officer overseeing B Platoon midnight shift. During his early years with the department for 4 consecutive years from 2014 through 2017, Lieutenant Deswitz led the department with the most drunk driving arrests. Each year he was recognized with an award from the Mothers Against Drunk Driving. Lieutenant Deswitz has served as a field training officer. He was promoted to the rank of detective, where he served for a period before being promoted to the rank of sergeant, and then soon thereafter being promoted to the rank of lieutenant. We're extremely fortunate to have Lieutenant Paul Deswitz as a member of the public safety team. Sergeant Jay Schwalik. Sergeant Jay Schwalik is a 7-year veteran of the Oak Park Public Safety Department. He's a command officer currently supervising C Platoon day shift. He's a highly decorated officer who has received numerous awards and citations throughout his career. He has served as a field training officer. Sergeant Schwalik is an evidence technician and is currently in charge of the department's evidence technician program. He has also served as a detective in the Investigations Bureau. We're extremely fortunate to have Sergeant Schwalik as a member of the public safety team. Dispatcher Michelle Spies. Dispatcher Spies is a 20-year veteran of the Oak Park Department of Public Safety, also working in our communications center. She's currently working a day shift. Dispatcher Spies has received numerous awards and citations throughout her distinguished career. Dispatcher Spies is extremely intelligent, dedicated, professional, hardworking, and devoted. Our communications center is the lifeline of the department. The great majority of the time, our dispatch team sit humbly in the shadows, not seeking or looking for accolades or attention, but going about their duties in a very workmanlike manner. We are extremely fortunate to have her as a member of our public safety team. Officer Devin Benson. Officer Devin Benson is a 25-year veteran of the Oak Park Department of Public Safety and is currently set to retire on August 30th, 2024. After we finish presenting this award for this homicide case, I'm going to bring Officer Benson back up and elaborate on his outstanding career. He's currently serving as one of the department's community resource officers. He is a highly decorated officer who has received numerous awards and citations throughout his distinguished career. Officer Benson has been a field training officer. He was promoted to the rank of detective, where he spent several years in the Investigations Bureau before being promoted to the position of community resource officer. We are very fortunate to have Officer Benson as a member of our team. Detective Kyle McFarland. Detective McFarland is an 8-year veteran of the Oak Park Department of Public Safety. He's a highly decorated officer who has received numerous awards and citations throughout his career. He has served as a field training officer. He is also one of the department's evidence technician and was promoted to the rank of detective, currently serving in the Investigations Bureau, where he is doing an outstanding job. We're extremely fortunate to have Detective Kyle McFarland as a member of the Public Safety Department. Last but not least, I'd like to bring up Officer/Fire Inspector Tom Oakes. Officer Oakes is a 24-year veteran of the Oak Park Department of Public Safety. He's a highly decorated officer who has received numerous awards and citations throughout his distinguished career. Officer Oakes has served as a field training officer. He was promoted to the rank of fire inspector, where he currently serves in the fire division. Officer Oakes is trained in fire cause and origin, arson investigation, etc. He has been recognized and has testified in court as an expert in the various fields. We're extremely fortunate to have Officer/Fire Inspector Tom Oakes as a member of the Public Safety Department. Some additional members that are no longer with the department that are actually on the award that I would like to just call out their name and recognize them. Lieutenant Samantha Crutchmeyer, who's currently retired. Lieutenant Dan Pator, who's unable to be here this evening. Sergeant Walter Duncan, who's retired. Sergeant James Vernier, who's retired. Officer Bernard Anderson, who's retired. Detective Matthew Tyson, who's retired. Detective Dave Taylor, who's retired. Detective Ryan Beasley is unable to attend this evening. Detective Jessica Charter, no longer with the department, and Dispatcher Mary Ann Page is unable to be here this evening. Is she here? Oh, she made it. All right, come on back up, Mary Ann, I got you. All righty, Dispatcher Page is a 25-year veteran of the Oak Park Public Safety Department working in our communications system. She's currently working day shift. Dispatcher Page is highly decorated and has received numerous awards and citations over the course of her 25-year distinguished career. She is highly intelligent, dedicated, professional, and hardworking. Our communications center is the heartbeat of our operation, and we could not exist without them. We're extremely fortunate to have her as a member of this Public Safety Department. Thank you for coming, Mary Ann. I know you had an emergency in your family this weekend and didn't think you were going to be able to make it, but God bless you for being here. And the reason that we're standing here, and I'll go into it, this incident that these officers and our dispatchers are being recognized for occurred on Wednesday, June 1st, 2022, with an investigation and criminal adjudication spanning the course of 2 years, resulting in 5 defendants being criminally charged. This case is arguably, again, the biggest case investigated in the history of the Oak Park Department of Public Safety. The initial 911 call received at our communications center was a person shot inside of a vehicle. Officers and detectives rushed to the scene, located the victim whom had been shot, and immediately started to render aid. The victim was transported to a local hospital where he succumbed to his injuries. A witness on scene provided information regarding the suspect's whereabouts, which assisted officers in his quick apprehension. You can only imagine how chaotic this scene was, with dozens of people out in the neighborhood at approximately 1:30 in the afternoon, with officers trying to decipher what had taken place. Just a sincere thank you to our patrol division, who did an outstanding job responding and conducting initial interviews and quickly locating the suspect. Also, a great job by our dispatch team, who had to field multiple 911 calls, obtaining critical information while keeping the callers calm and focused on our 911 call center as they continued to be flooded with 911 calls. The information had to be immediately relayed to responding officers who were arriving on scene, in addition to providing officers with updated information regarding the vicinity of the suspect. As Sergeant Green took over as the lead detective/officer in charge of this case, the work of the Investigations Bureau intensified. As the investigation continued to develop, it led to several intelligence meetings with the FBI and countless hours being poured into the case. Eventually, it was determined that the homicide was a murder for hire orchestrated by the victim's attorney. In May of 2024, the case was adjudicated in the Oakland County 6th Circuit Court, with the jury returning guilty verdicts of conspiracy to murder and first-degree murder, as well as other counts. I had the opportunity, after the case was adjudicated, to speak with the Honorable John Skrinsky, who's the chief litigator, and he's sitting in the audience. If you would be acknowledged. And if, hopefully, John, you don't mind, I would like to read a letter that he authored and actually sent to the department on behalf of the prosecutor's office. And the letter reads as follows. It says, "Dear Director Cooper, we recently completed the prosecution of the above defendants in the Oakland County Circuit Court. The case involved the conspiracy to murder Daniel and Marissa Hutchinson, the murder of Daniel Hutchinson, and the assault with intent to murder on Marissa Hutchinson. Marco Bisbicas and Roy Larry were convicted of conspiracy to murder, first-degree murder, assault with intent to murder, and 2 counts of felony firearms. They were sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. Darnell Larry and Angelo Rotopoulos were each convicted of solicitation to murder and sentenced to prison after testifying as witnesses for the prosecution. Philip Sumner was convicted of conspiracy to commit felonious assault and was sentenced to a year in the Oakland County Jail. I am writing to commend your entire department on the thorough investigation, quick resolution, and highly successful prosecution of this case. The citizens of Oak Park and Oakland County should be proud of the work your entire department did on this case. It was thoroughly professional and a textbook example of what excellent police work is. It is also a fine reflection of your leadership of this department. And while the whole department is to be commended, I would especially like to single out the work of Sergeant Dwayne Green. Sergeant Green's effort in this case were extraordinary and indispensable to the success of the prosecution. Sergeant Green met the call on every task he was asked to perform, and there were several. Between the arrest of all the perpetrators here and their convictions, he did all that was asked of him and more. He was professional, courteous, prompt, and thorough. Sergeant Green attended every court proceeding in this matter, as well as every one of the numerous witness interviews and strategy sessions that were involved. His insights were extremely helpful, and his presentation on the witness stand during the trial and numerous hearings involved in this case was always professional, engaging, and compelling. Sergeant Green went far above and beyond the duties of an officer in charge. He spent countless hours with us in all aspects of this case. Your entire department is professional, proficient, and praiseworthy, and Sergeant Green epitomizes the ethics of your department. The citizens of Oak Park and Oakland County are lucky to have a department like yours and an officer like Sergeant Green. I want to thank the prosecutor for I want to thank the prosecutor for taking the time out to author that letter. You don't know how much that means to every man and woman that you see surrounded here in this council chambers. And without further ado, like I said, I will read the citation that I authored, and it reads as follows. It says, on Wednesday, June 1st, 2022, at approximately 1:35 p.m., Oak Park officers were dispatched to the area of Greenfield Road and Miller Street on the report of a person shot inside a vehicle. Prior to arriving on scene, officers received updated information that the suspect responsible for the shooting had fled the location, traveling eastbound on Miller, riding a bike. Officers arrived on scene to find the vehicle stopped in a vacant lot on Greenfield Road. There were 2 occupants seated inside the vehicle, a male and a female. It was quickly determined by officers that the male seated in the driver's seat had been the victim of several gunshots. The male was later determined to be Daniel Hutchinson, owner of Hutchinson's Jewelry in Oak Park. The female passenger, wife of Daniel Hutchinson, appeared to be uninjured. Officers immediately removed the victim from the vehicle and began to administer CPR. While administering CPR, a witness approached officers and stated that he had witnessed the shooting, and in an effort to prevent the suspect from escaping on a bike, he struck him with his vehicle. The witness directed additional officers on scene to the location of the suspect. Officers continued to perform life-saving measures on the victim as he was transported to a local hospital where he eventually succumbed to his injuries. Officers located the suspect, later identified as Roy Larry, lying on the ground in front of a home in the immediate area. Once the suspect observed the officers, he attempted to get up from the ground and flee on foot, but was unable to get far due to an obvious injury to his left ankle. The suspect was ordered back to the ground at gunpoint. The suspect denied any involvement in the murder of the victim, but an eyewitness at the scene identified him as a person responsible for the shooting. The entire incident was captured on video surveillance from the Hutchinson's business at the scene. The suspect was taken into custody and transported to a local hospital where he was treated for his injury. The suspect was subsequently charged with murder in the first degree. This case was assigned to Detective Sergeant Dwayne Green, who served as the officer in charge. Further developments from this case led to several intelligence meetings with the FBI, and as a result of these meetings, additional information was gained. Detective Sergeant Green and the Investigations Bureau spent countless hours conducting numerous interviews, analyzing mounds of evidence, tracking various leads, etc. The consistent and unrelenting efforts that were spent investigating this case revealed this to be a murder for hire, orchestrated by the victim's attorney, Marco Bisbicas. The motive centered on a large sum of money that Bisbicas stood to gain after he wrote himself into the will and trust of Daniel Hutchinson and his wife, Maricha Hutchinson, without their knowledge. Marco Bisbicas' greed for financial gain steered him to contract and conspire with Roy Larry and 3 other defendants to kill Daniel and Marissa Hutchinson. All 5 subjects were charged by the Oakland County Prosecutor's Office. Roy Larry and Marco Bisbicas stood trial and were found guilty in the 6th Circuit Court in Pontiac, Michigan of first-degree murder. Both were sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. The other 3 defendants accepted plea agreements. All 5 are currently incarcerated in the Michigan Department of Corrections, where they are serving out their prison sentences. Due to the quick response, coordinated efforts of all the officers and detectives on scene, along with the outstanding assistance from our dispatchers, the suspects responsible for killing Mr. Daniel Hutchinson was immediately apprehended. In addition, an extensive, tireless, and unyielding investigation that continued throughout the course of 2 years, led by Detective Sergeant Dwayne Green and assisted by members of the Investigations Bureau, revealed the murder for hire plot that subsequently resulted in 4 additional defendants being charged and held criminally liable for their actions. You are commended for the outstanding and superlative manner in which you performed your duties in this case, and is signed by myself, the Director of Public Safety, Steve Cooper. Congratulations again. Couldn't be prouder of all of you.
Should we stay up there? Amazing. these chairs back? Chairs back? Yep. Okay, let's see. In the middle, and there's a pause. There we go, yep. Thank you. I like how they keep you in line. Yeah, sure. It's- it's-
Okay.
All right.
Oh, Gino, can you take this one? That's Jerry, I was just using that as a prop. You got it. You up first, boss.
Where is Devin?
There he is, right there.
Okay. Council members, member of the public, I'm City Manager Eric Tungate. I'm going to take a moment to read a special recognition for Devin Benson. Come on up here, Devin. This one hurts. This one hurts a lot.
I want to thank the prosecutor who just spoke and wrote that beautiful letter. Yeah, he's leaving right now, but I'd like to thank him for taking the time to recognize quality.
All right.
Thank you.
Okay. Devin has been with us since 1999. The mayor, council, and administration of the City of Oak Park, Michigan, in testament and tribute to his distinguished public service and lasting contributions to the City of Oak Park and its residents, wish to express their sincere appreciation to Devin Benson. You have served as a pillar of integrity in this organization and have helped set the city's high standard of excellence. You have served as a source of guidance, support, and leadership for your colleagues, and it is those qualities that will leave a lasting imprint on the City of Oak Park. Your dedicated spirit, wealth of knowledge, and overall dedication to the City of Oak Park will be sorely missed. Signed, Marion McClellan, Mayor, Eric Tungate, City Manager. Devin, I almost lost it when your brother retired fairly recently, but just the impact that you have had on my 12 years here and on the lives of these residents has been, words could not do it justice. It has been an amazing impact that you have had. You are, I always tell you this, you are one of the kindest human beings. Your parents did something right because you were one of the kindest human beings I have ever encountered in my entire life. And it is an honor and a privilege to have served here with you. And you always, just like your brother, you always have a home here in the City of Oak Park, and I love you, man.
Okay, love you also. Not yet, man. You get to speak in a minute. Good evening again, Council and City Attorney and City Manager Tungate. And as the CM said, it's a tough one. It's a tough one for me as well. I've had the honor and pleasure of working intimately with Officer Benson for the past 25 years. Over the course of his distinguished career, he has been much more than a co-worker. Officer Benson has been a close and loyal confidant, and I have depended on him heavily. I sought him out on countless occasions, seeking his opinion and advice on many matters. Our relationship stems far beyond the 25 years we've spent here as public safety officers for the City of Oak Park. When his brother, Lieutenant Marlon Benson, retired back in February of this year, he mentioned that my mother and his mother, Mama Benson, grew up together practically as sisters. We spent many years together, including sharing Thanksgiving dinners. These times and many more I will cherish forever. Today is bittersweet, Although I am happy and proud of Officer Benson's accomplishments throughout his career, I am sad to see one of the greatest, most genuine men who I love and have the highest respect for retire. His career speaks for itself. The indelible footprints that he has left in the city of Oak Park over the past 25 years cannot be matched. He's truly one of a kind. Officer Benson has served this profession honorably and with the utmost integrity. He's a highly decorated officer who has received numerous citations and awards throughout his distinguished career. He's held numerous positions within this department, including field training officer, promoted to the rank of detective, where he served for several years in the Investigations Bureau as one of our most elite investigators, working some of the most difficult and dangerous cases. He was a member of the department's Major Crimes Task Force. He was then promoted to the position of Community Resource Officer, where he continued to excel. As one of the Community Resource Officers, his duties were endless. Officer Benson coordinated and instructed various programs for 3 school districts, to include Oak Park, Ferndale, Berkeley, along with several Jewish schools and numerous preschool programs throughout the city. He was instrumental in starting and organizing various block clubs throughout the city. Officer Benson represented public safety at numerous city events, to name a few: Halloween Spooktacular, Winterfest, Summer Blast, Independence Day Parade, Public Safety Open Houses, Citizens Academy, just to name a few. He supervises 15 crossing guards for 3 school districts, oversees and supervises our parking enforcement officer. He handles the coordination of our entire fleet of public safety vehicles. He holds special mediation sessions with residents to work through neighbor problems and concerns. This list is endless, and I could stand here for quite a while describing many more of his duties and responsibility. The countless hours and the extreme commitment that his position requires is a heavy lift, but it's so vital to keeping and building the positive relationships that we have established throughout this community. One of the things that is so extra special and amazing about Officer Benson is his humility and the kind-hearted attitude that he possesses and displays daily as he goes about the business of his profession. Everyone knows Officer Benson, and I mean everyone. Everyone loves Officer Benson as well. He never meets a stranger. He can relate to people from all walks of life. He has an infectious personality that attracts all. He has embraced his community with love and affection, pouring and always giving so much of himself to this great city. He's an outstanding man in every aspect. His career speaks for itself. Without a doubt, you also are our first ballot Hall of Famer. You represent the very best that this profession has to offer. The positive impact you've had on the lives of so many has for sure made this city a better community. Again, it's truly been an honor and a privilege to serve alongside you for the past 25 years. I wish you the best as you begin the next chapter of your life. I love you, my brother, and may God continue to bless you and keep you.
City Manager, Madam Mayor, City Council. I thought I was gonna be able to keep it together. Y'all won the bet. I couldn't keep it together. So what that say is, I have always loved my career. From when I started, I knew when I did my first ride along, this was gonna be the job for me. A lot of people have jobs that they don't like. I can say I love my job. You could tell from when I walk around this building, I'm always smiling, joking. I'm talking to everyone because I love the job. I've never complained about the job. I've had days that might have been rough, but I bounced back the next day with that. I want to thank the citizens. Man, we have some of the best citizens, and people don't realize that when you have a community that embraces you, it makes your job a lot easy. You know, from the first day, man, I came here, people were waving at me. I wasn't used to that. Stopping, telling us how important our job was, how they recognize us. I mean, man, it happens all the time. And co-workers, man, we've been together, a lot of us, for 20 years. 20 years. We started with no kids, not married. Working 12-hour night shifts. I mean, from talking about personal things. A few guys stood up at my wedding. And man, you're family to me. I never had to even think about, did you have my back? Were you going to be there for me? Going in through fires, responding to runs, you always was there. Man, I put you all up against anyone. And then my brother, my best friend. I think he's my little big brother. I got to talk about him because, I reflected over the last week about my career because it seemed like it happened so fast. And how many people could say they worked with their brother over 20 years, saw their brother every day, 20 years? We had this job where we could talk about what's going on in the community. We could talk about cases. We saw each other. I mean, how many people really could say that? I think we probably have history because I don't know another brother team that's been with Oak Park. So I had to look at that. And I thank you for sharing this experience with me also. Let's talk about the chief. Chief Cooper, man, you are the best chief that we had. I have worked under the chiefs, but you're the best chief. You're a man of integrity. You're a mentor. And when I stand behind you, I can't help but be the best. I got to represent the department. So I want to just thank you for your open door policies, for you treating the citizens right. You taught us all how to do that, and I want to thank you for that. Let's talk about my family now. Start off with my mother, Mama B. Man, that's my everything. My mother, man, religion is in our house. Man, my mother had taught me we could pray through anything, and I believed it. Man, my mother, I wouldn't really think she was too keen on us being officers when we first started, but we had two rules. My brother and I both was on midnight shift. When we got home, we had to call her. No matter what we did, we had to call her and let her know we was all right. And there's another thing I'm not even sure she remembered. Psalms 91st. I don't know if you remember this, but you took it out the Bible and made a copy of it for me. You said every time we go out, make sure we had that on you. Just to let you know, I still have my original one 28 years ago. And I want to thank you for that. I want to thank you for my work ethics, my prayer. And nowadays, I really want to thank you about respect. Because you taught us from a little kid how to respect people. And just to let you know, you didn't take no stuff. You had everybody scared, including me. So I just want to thank you for that. My wife, man, thinking about it, you married a cop, police officer. And a lot of times, worked holidays, got off late, on calls, you never complained. Never complained. And a lot of times, you adjusted your schedule around my schedule, and we had to get the kids to school, you said you had it. You just don't really realize that that made my job a lot easier without me working on it. And your unconditional love. And, sometimes I used to look at things from like a police officer. It was only one way to do it, either right or wrong. And you showed me compassion. That's why over the years, it was your compassion. You told me everybody is not on the same playing field. Everybody parent didn't teach them like my parent taught me. So I respect you for that. My kids, my son is up at school and my daughter. This one I really had to think about because you all never complained. I miss basketball games. I miss holidays. Then I started thinking, were they just glad I wasn't there because I couldn't get on them? I started thinking about that, but I really appreciate you all. I really, really appreciate you all just respecting the profession, never complaining. And I really don't even think you let everybody know I was a police officer. I think you kept that within. And I really thank you all for that. And I'm not going to keep y'all long because I could become a pastor right now, but I'm not. So normally I talk a lot, so I'm gonna stop. But with my closing, like the chief always say, I love each and every one of you all, and I really do. And I really, really do. And man, it's almost like I can't believe my career is over with. This aspect of my life. So with that, I love you all, and thank you very much.
Probably. Should get out of the way. That's a hard act to follow. At a recent convention, a Michigan sheriff stood up and said that on our police cars, we have 3 words instead of 2: protect, serve, and unite. Devin Benson added the word unite to all of our cars and people because of the way he treated them and the way that they adored him back. Mom, you did something right. Oh, wow. Sure, yeah.
Okay.
Oh, wow. Next, we have some more fun news. The Community Center Site Plan Study, and City Manager Eric Tungate will introduce the speaker.
Well, Robert, I hope that you can follow. It's a tough act to follow. I know you can do it. Robert Stampian is here from Plant Moran to go through our presentation. So, council members, this is the site plan study that we hired Plant Moran to conduct for us. So I'm very excited to let you see some of these results, and hopefully for our community center project, this will begin the process in earnest of building a new community center and determining where it goes and so forth.
Wow.
So, Robert, if we're ready,
Okay.
or we're not ready.
Well, we're just gearing up the presentation, but it's a hard presentation to follow, but what a great man. I just want to start by thanking the mayor, council members, city manager Tungate, city attorney and city clerk, and some of the folks here behind me for helping me out with this site study that I performed for Shepherd Park to look at where potentially a community center could go, or a potential senior housing development. So what we did is we started off by looking at the existing site and the encumbrances and things that would hinder any development on that site, and looking at the spaces that were available for development. And through that analysis, we came up with a presentation that I'm giving you tonight on potential areas for development for the community center and the senior center portion of the site.
So, council members, while we're setting this up, if I could just add that, the staff and I have been working very closely with these guys, and it's been a great relationship. Keep in mind, we're juggling the event hub project along with this one. So I really do think we are still pushing for a spring bond issue for the community center to the tune of $44 million. So I think we're on track with that. I still think, and Dave, you're nod yes, but I think we are really looking for a spring groundbreaking for the event hub. And that's going to be something we're going to talk more about with you, but rather than start this fall and force things, we're just thinking start in the spring and begin that project and get it moving forward. By the way, simultaneously, the Oakland County Shepherd Park Oakland County Parks and Recreation Shepherd Park improvements are going to be happening starting this spring too. So it is going to look like the entire campus here is under construction. It's going to be a lot going on.
Mayor,
Yes.
so you talked about spring for the bond issue. What does that mean? We'll start collecting to build the community center? When do you suppose we'll start with that project?
That means we can start collecting in the summer tax bill of 2025. But it means that we have, I think it's a 3-year time period from the point of issuing bonds to begin the project. And so, you know, that means we're going to be close to ready to go. We're going to enter very quickly, like we are with the Event Hub process, into the design development phase of the community center, and then actually putting together building department documents and moving forward. Today's presentation, as Robert's going to detail here in a moment, is a huge step, though, because this is just where on our campus do these buildings best serve our community. That's the answer that we most wanted. I mean, he's going to be sharing some more details in terms of recommendations for square footage and estimated costs based on real-time market numbers. And I see he's got it going here, so I'm going to turn it over to him.
Right, thank you. All right, just a little bit of background of Plant Moran Real Point. We're the real estate division of Plant Moran. You probably know Plant Moran for tax and audit services, but what Plant Moran did is we...
Robert, I think you have to speak into the mic just a little bit
sorry.
closer.
Okay, can you hear me? Okay. We have a real estate division of Plant Moran, and there's about 130 of us. We provide real estate capital improvement expertise to our clients with owner rep services. There's a lot of our clients that aren't used to doing large capital improvement projects, and we have in-house expertise from architects, CMs, or construction managers, accountants, attorneys that help develop these projects. My background is in architecture. Although I have an extensive knowledge of construction management. I worked for Barton Mallow for 15 years. My father's an architect. He just retired 6 months ago. He's 94. So I'm sure he's done work in Oak Park as well. But, you know, I love architecture. I love these type of projects. I've been involved with 4 or 5 community centers in the past, I would say 4 to 5 years, which seems to be a trend with a lot of municipalities because of the fact that they've received ARPA dollars that they could use to spend on these initiatives. And this is just an example of some of the public sector clients that we work with. We also work with Oak Park Public Schools across the street here. Actually, I'm going to be working with Angel, the superintendent, on the renovation of the natatorium project across the street, which will start in the spring. And just to give you some examples of some of the projects that we've worked on in the past. Farmington Hills, the Hawk, as you know, was a high school in Farmington Hills that was sold to the city and converted into a community center. This is actually one of the sites that we visited with our team, just to take a look at their program spaces, to see the size of the spaces, what works, what doesn't work, and perhaps you know, look at maybe a program that would fit for Oak Park through that experience. This was a $27 million renovation project, and keep in mind this services about 82,000 residents in Farmington Hills. Of course, your resident population is a lot less than that, but it did have a rec pool component that was very interesting to see that portion of that building and how it operated. We also are building, or just completed, Van Buren Township Rec Center. That's about a $16 million project, 36,000 square feet of area. And the population there is about 24,000 residents. Redford Township, which is under construction right now, is another one of our projects. It's a $21.5 million project funded by ARPA, HUD Dollars General Fund. There's a whole mix of different funding sources for that particular project. That services about 46,000 I think it's 46,000 residents in that area. And then, just to round it off, Waterford Township, they're going out for a bond in November. They're potentially taking over a portion of the OCC campus in Waterford, approximately 56 acres, along with 2 buildings. One's a student center that they'll convert to a community center, and an existing gymnasium building. We're also building right now a natatorium project or a pool project in Caledonia. This is going to be operated by the YMCA. That's under construction right now. It's about 46,000 square feet. And West Bloomfield, we finished a feasibility study, which we do a lot of these studies for municipalities to look at what the feasibility is for building a rec center or community center, along with operational costs associated with that build. They are going out for actually they passed the bond in August, and they're looking to putting together a team to go to the next step, I guess, with this particular project. So just to give you some background on the Shepherd Park site, we looked at all the different encumbrances, things that need to stay, things that could go, things that would impact the site. So it was a month to 2 month process that we went through to kind of look at what's existing and where potentially we could put a community center, and maybe also utilize the existing parking that's on the site as well. So we started this discovery back in July and August of this year. We looked at, like I mentioned, the encumbrances on the site and documented those. We also visited the Farmington Hills Hawk and also the Van Buren Township Community Center. We looked at developing a program to see how big of a building we could put on this site, given the amount of dollars that you have from the bond series sale that will come up in this spring. We also looked at the parking that's necessary for a certain size building. Your ordinance requires 1 space per 250 square feet of building, so that's a very important factor to understand what the footprint will look like and how big of a parking area that we would need. And then we looked at the potential areas of development. We also looked at putting together a high-level program. We have a lot of historical information from all of the builds that we've done with community centers and rec centers. So we documented all the square footages associated with those spaces, what size gym, what size pool they have, what kind of, how big of a meeting space they would have. And we use that as a basis for building a program for your facility. This is another component, which would be the pool component. A lot of them run, like for instance, the Farmington Hills Hawk was about 9,000 square feet. So they're quite large spaces, and also you have your support spaces with mechanical rooms and locker rooms and other things associated with the pool. So with that, as I mentioned, we put together an example program development for that, and then we also looked at the costs associated with these different program spaces. Keep in mind there are several buildings on the site that will have to be demolished in order to make room for a community center. So we've added that to the budget. The aquatics portion of the building will be at a higher cost per square foot. So we've indicated that, and we also looked at it as if the build was 2 years out, because you still have to design it, construct it, and then occupy. So the dollars are escalated from our historical information that we have from doing these rec centers and community centers. So we know, how much an aquatic center will cost, how much a community center program space would cost. So we put all that information together to provide a cost model for the development of the site. So this is your site. It's basically 57 acres. There are encumbrances, as I mentioned. Oakland County Parks owns probably half the site. There are other things that are bisecting the site, like the 12-inch water main, the 72-inch sanitary sewer. Granted, you can move those, but it's very costly. So those were, I guess, static given areas that we weren't going to touch, and kind of work our development around those encumbrances. There's the proposed hub. We've got the site detention area, the library, and the sliding hill and train that you can see on the left-hand side of the screen. And then we looked at the existing parking. So The reason why we did this analysis is to understand what you currently have on site and what could be reutilized. So every dollar that you don't spend on putting in a parking lot can go towards the building. So it was crucial to kind of understand, that component of the site and seeing where potentially we could salvage some of the existing surface parking lot area and attribute it to the building. So we chunked this out into different acreages, and you can see that the largest chunk is probably the 6.83 acres, which is where the current pool and ice arena is located. To the south of that, we have the library site, and then to the left of that, we have 2 3-acre parcels where potentially a senior center component could go. To the north of that, we have a 4.25 acres. You can see that's where the courts are for the tennis courts, and that's just north of the sanitary sewer line. So the dashed lines are the utilities that bisect the site. And this is just an example of what potentially could go on that site as far as a community center. What we're finding is that you could probably support a community center that's between 55 to 60,000 square feet, given your budget. We also looked at the parking requirements for the community center. You need about 248 spaces. So we have 128 at the existing ice arena, so you'd have to add maybe another 100 parking spaces to support the community center. Also, we could fit a senior housing development on Oak Park Boulevard. As you can see, the L-shaped configuration. This is just showing a floor plate that of approximately 25 units that could fit on one floor plate. So as you stack, you could stack, as you go out 25 units. So it's really up to, a developer to refine that component of the senior housing development. But we know that we started off that, typically these senior housing developments are about 3-acre sites. We could either place it where we have it now on this schematic, or we can move it to the left. But I kind of like this design because of the fact that the senior housing communicates well with the community center without traversing a parking lot or a driveway. We could put in a walking path that would go to the community center without any obstruction with vehicular traffic. This does show the existing community center building being removed and saving the library component and creating basically a ring road that would go to the community center and then exit out to Oak Park Boulevard. So as far as next steps, we would encourage hiring an owner's rep. That's why I'm here tonight, and I hope our expertise can help you out with this very important project. Everybody has day jobs, so it's right out in our wheelhouse as far as helping out communities like Van Buren, like Redford Township, like Waterford Township. They find that having this expertise at the table really helps out and makes the project go smoothly, keeps things on track with schedule and budget, and understanding all the nuances involved with developing a community center. Also, very important is establishing that master project schedule. How long is it going to take to build? And as you go through the design, there's also intervals for approvals. And we encourage always to have the council involved with that and have their buy-off on getting to that next step from, let's say, design development to construction documents. Also establishing the master budget, which is very important as well. Granted that there is a dollar amount that you're selling bonds for, but we can also look at cash flow and when do you actually need all that money. We've done quite an extensive analysis on these community centers to understand when you have to pay the architect, how much you have to pay the architect and the CM, and all the costs associated with the build, technology designers, fitness equipment suppliers, all that kind of makes up the entire team for the project. And of course, issuing for an RFP for the architect engineer, very important. We do the solicitations, the RFPs, the contracts, so we work hand in hand with the city attorney to develop those contracts and make sure that everything is comports to what the project is all about, and hopefully minimize your risk on the project as well. And we would recommend a construction manager for this particular engagement, and we would issue the RFP as well. We've worked with all of the construction managers in the area. We do probably about, 1.5 billion in work a year in this southeast Michigan area. So we know all the players, and they know us. So with that, I was just wondering if you have any questions.
City council members, do you have questions?
Madam Mayor, can I,
Yes.
I have some just leading questions I want to ask him, just because I think they might answer some questions.
good.
So Robert, so the first thing, I want to go back to the community center building program development slide. The recommend, because right now, obviously, part of what we looked at, as you said, was the budget that we had allocated per the vote of the ballot initiative that our voters approved. But we did look at things based on a needs basis too, and obviously the pool was a huge part of that. So the aquatics area you have, council members, about 13,200 square feet of the total 55 to 60,000 square feet.
Correct.
Okay. And so this, if we didn't have that, would this most closely match, Van Buren Township's community center, would you say?
Well, Van Buren's about 35,000 square feet.
Give or take,
So
yeah.
if you didn't have the aquatics component, it would be a lot less dollars allocated towards this initiative.
Okay. The other thing I was hoping you could detail a little bit more is the reason why the recommendation for the senior housing is where it is versus where the community center is.
Because of the ample parking that you would have that's existing. Also, that space is quite large to support a 55 to 60,000 square foot building. And also, it has a good communication to the woods that are right in the, behind it to the north.
And the easement issues too with the.
Correct.
When we, council members, when we built this building we're sitting in now, one of the best or the biggest savings items that we had was this parking lot right out here. This was an existing parking lot that we didn't have to rebuild, and by virtue of that, saved us a ton of money. So we're trying very hard to do that same thing with this project. In addition to that, I was hoping you could speak a little bit about the retention basin over there.
Right, there's an existing retention basin that we could utilize if it could support the water runoff from the parking lot. So what we try to do is look at those areas where we can reduce cost on the building, or I'm sorry, the site work, so that we could put into the building. So you have a surface water detention basin right in that corner adjacent to the ice arena. And we're going to, if I would recommend going forward that you can look at that as a means of water drainage off your existing site, if it can support, the volume of water from the runoff from the hard surfaces of the buildings and the parking lots.
Which means we would save on sanitary sewer and
Right.
Utilities. I have one more thing.
Mm-hmm.
So I want to go to your last slide. So could you explain in more detail the important reason for the owner's rep and what that person does in this process? And so that is our next step, council members.
So what we do is we're kind of like the quarterback with your team. And we help you along the process of really, refining that schedule, looking at the approvals. We put together a governance associated with the project. And what's helpful with that is it gives you, everybody on the team, an understanding of the approval process. If there's a change order, how does that get handled? If it's a certain dollar amount, how does that get handled? When are the approvals for the documentation that may occur for the project? So we get heavily involved with the upfront. There's a lot of planning in the front end of the project, procuring the architect, getting the right architect and team together for this project. Also the construction manager that has the capacity, the capability, the knowledge of doing this type of build. There's a lot of nuances involved with these community centers that we're finding with the equipment, the type of gymnasium that you build, the size of these spaces, even down to the lighting. I mean, it's just, and the flooring for that matter. So it's a very extensive, I guess, nuanced project. And what we, have found that with our historical information that we've gathered on all these rec center, we document everything that we do, and we even know operational costs. How much does it cost for child watch if you're going to have that component? Or what are the hours of operations? Which a lot of, community centers, they start off like 40 hours a week, but typically these community centers, they'll be open for 100 hours a week. And how do you manage that? And how many folks do you have to bring on board in order to operate a building? We also are finding that operational costs are between $35 to $50 a square foot, depending on how, what the program spaces are. And out of that $35 to $50 a square foot, about $18 a square foot is attributed to staffing.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of folks, when they get into these projects and they haven't hired an owner's rep to, think through these things, they find that, well, we have to, maybe bond for an operational millage in order to take care of this, or we have to tap into general fund to offset our costs. So it's always good to just have a plan going forward and understanding what these potential costs might be, and you can, schedule and plan for that. Luckily, you've passed an operational millage, which will
Right.
support this project, but it's always good to know what your costs are going into this endeavor.
So I lied, I have a couple more. So the other thing I think was, I think I'm getting this number right, but you expect with these that in general, about 30% of the cost could be offset with revenue from programs and things.
Right.
So we're never going to
yep.
get to 100% offset, no matter what. We're going to get to about 30% or so.
Right.
Okay, so I think just one more thing I wanted to point out is it's a very important distinction for us because here in Oak Park, we're used to doing it ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
And the building we're sitting in right now, we were the owner's rep, our staff was. And we didn't have that here. So we had a construction manager, didn't have an owner's rep. So in this situation, council members, my recommendation to you going forward is going to be that we have an owner's rep and that we do not do it in-house the way we did this. Also, I was hoping you, I promise this is the last one, but I think this is important.
Yeah.
The last one is the housing, the senior housing study.
Mm-hmm.
And if you could just briefly talk about what your next steps and recommendations would be for that.
So my coworker, Doug Smith, he has expertise in this area, and he's recommending that we go to market and find out what the developer interest would be for having a senior housing development on this site. They're going to tell you whether or not this is feasible, how many units they need to support their pro forma. I think it's a good area. There's a lot of good synergies between senior housing and the community center. It's, if you ever been to OPC in Rochester, they have a senior housing development close by, within walking distance. It's just a wonderful facility that they have over there. But I think all those different components need to be looked at, and what Doug is recommending is to go to market and get the interest of what the developers are willing to develop on that site. Yep.
City council questions. It's
I
kind of
do.
overwhelming.
I do have a question. So, we haven't really talked about what would be in the community center beyond a pool, right?
Right.
And a gymnasium, but in terms of courts, like, we're not into those weeds yet, right? We haven't really decided.
No, but we did put together a very high-level model just to figure out how big the building footprint could be based on what we typically see in community centers. For instance, a gymnasium. Usually they're about 9,000 to 10,000 square feet, and they have an upper-level mezzanine for a walking track, and that's another 5,000. So it's roughly about 15,000 for that gym component. And then there's also your multi-purpose rooms, your lobby, your administration, the support people. So we kind of have an understanding of, those components, but there's always these specialty spaces that you may want to have. For instance, when we were at Van Buren, they have a black box theater. That's about 3,500 square feet. But it's a a great gathering spot for people, for theater productions. It's not a full-blown auditorium. It's very versatile. You can use it for, receptions and other activities within the building. So that might be something to consider, and that's something that Van Buren wanted as part of their program space.
Robert, can I just, Councilmember Edgar, on page 10, on the Community Center Building Program Development slide, it does detail, high level, as Robert said, just some of the recommendations for some of those areas. I also, one more thing too, is it possible, because I know one of the things that I benefited from, and I know the staff did as well, was the tours that you conducted with us in the Hawk and then Van Buren. Is it possible that council members could go on those same tours? And I think
Oh, yeah.
just because I think that would give them a much better understanding.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe we could organize those.
Yeah, I'd love to do that if the council was open to doing that. Because once you see the spaces and understand the volume, how they're being used, for instance, the Hawk, I mean, they're trying to fill 244,000 square feet of space. And they have esports rooms, they have a wood shop, they have dance studios, archery within the building, a lot of athletic components like weights and, yoga class areas. They have a full-size gym, which was from the high school, and that was probably a 3-court gym, 15,000 square feet. I mean, it's substantial. They also have athletic fields, which is another component that you have to think about with this, is, what kind of athletic components outside of the building do you want? Do you want pickleball courts, some kind of, tennis, restroom areas, things that are outside the building? That's something that we're looking at Waterford Township, because they have 56 acres that they are looking to develop with outside, walking tracks. They want to put in something similar to the Hub with a auditorium, which is something that Redford Township is doing as well. So, I've reserved a little bit of money in that budget to take care of the outdoor site components. But the less money you spend on parking, development, and whatnot, and underground utilities, the more that you can put into the site development of that site.
Because I know the Caustic Center in Farmington Hills, they actually do pickleball inside, and it's hugely popular. Would we be able to fit some courts inside of this building?
Usually, the gymnasium's multi-purpose, and they use those gymnasiums for indoor pickleball, volleyball, and basketball, of course, and other activities. So, yes.
I went to high school at Harrison, which is now the Hawk, so yes, it looks a lot better.
We saw your locker when we were there, by the way.
Did you read all the scratches? I didn't realize that Oak Park High was going to renovate its pool,
Yes.
which may change things a bit. for
Well, they're
us.
not renovating, they're infilling. So they're taking it out,
Oh,
Oh, removing it,
removing it.
yeah.
removing.
Why are they removing it?
If you saw the mechanical room, it would probably cost more money to get that back online than it would to repurpose it.
That's the kind of expense we're looking at someday in the future, by putting a pool in.
I think you would be using this pool quite a bit, and it wouldn't get to that state.
I hope so.
Yeah.
I'm concerned, obviously.
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah, pools are hugely expensive to run.
They are.
Madam Mayor, can I just say one thing on always worrying about expenses, all of us?
All I see here is maintenance.
Yes, absolutely. But I do want to point out that on this slide,
I know.
now, Robert is using current, well, actually, I think he's building in inflation, which is right around 2.5%, 3% right now. But the total project budget right now is 43. And he's built in a cushion there, he's included demolition, the aquatics area, et cetera. So we're right where our voters authorized us to be. So I just want to point
Yeah.
that out.
So just to put it in perspective, the recent build at Caledonia, that's an aquatic center run by the YMCA that's under construction right now. Those the project cost on that came in at $720 a square foot for that facility. So aquatic centers are very expensive to build. The recent build, at Redford, I think I brought some numbers here just in case. Redford was, project cost was $616 a square foot. If you escalate that out in 5 years, it's probably about $680, or 2 years actually, with 5% escalation. Caledonia would run about $800 a square foot, 2 years out. Van Buren, which was built just recently, that landed at about $500 a square foot. So there's quite a range, and it really depends on the program elements that you put into the building. Redford Township had a aquatics component, and that was about $1.5 to $2 million to build that therapy pool component that they had in their facility. Just a small area with a mechanical room and some support lockers.
And do we have, do we have money planned to run the pool, to, you know, to pay the other 70% that doesn't come from fees, and
Well, and
to
it,
fix the pool and to fix the air filtration and all of that?
well, and this is something that's going to be, you know, ongoing, especially, you know, as we start seeing our new facilities, the event hub too. And it's going to be this slow buildup of operating costs. And we're going to have one of those on the agenda later tonight where, you know, we're starting to add staff because we're starting to accommodate bigger facilities, more stuff going on. But again, the revenue brought in from the 2.403 mils, which, remember, our voters also authorized us to go after, was intended to help us cover some of these additional costs. Now, usage revenue is about 30%, so we're never going to get there with that.
Mm-hmm.
But what we don't get there with that, we can help to subsidize with the operating millage that we got approved. So we're prepared for it. We don't yet know exactly what that's going to look like. We do know that recreation as we know it today in Oak Park, Michigan, is not going to be recreation in 2.5, 3 years. It's going to be literally quadruple the programs and the size.
And yeah, I mean, I know the Hawk, they do charge residents still to use it, because you have to.
Right, they do. There's always memberships associated with these community centers. There's also non-resident membership dollars, which are higher than, of course, than the residents. They have family memberships, individual. There's a whole different tier structure for memberships at these community centers that we typically see.
Do you know anything about how it works for cities like Farmington Hills? If they've been able to offset some of the operating costs of their Hawk?
Yeah, they have a lot of partnerships with, you know, community groups, also athletics. I believe Lawrence Tech uses their fields, other clubs use their fields, which helps with the revenue stream. There's also, you'll notice, like for instance, at OPC in Rochester, Troy Community Center, they have a dedicated space for a healthcare provider. Like you could have Henry Ford perhaps come in, and there's synergies involved with utilizing, you know, that component with the athletic equipment and things within the building for physical therapy or whatever they have to offer. So if you're going to go that route, I would encourage you to start the talks early so that you can plan for the space, because of course there's a capital cost involved with building space out for that component.
Robert, is the healthcare facility also a possibility in the senior housing development?
I would say yes, but I would have to defer to Doug about that, if he can give you some examples of, you know, where that's been provided. But I can't say for certain. I would defer to Doug.
How many people were, did you say just 25 people in the housing development?
25 per floor.
Say it again.
25 per floor, 25 units.
Per floor?
Right,
And how many
so-
floors?
Let's say usually you do a 3-stack, so it's 75 units perhaps. I think after 3 or 4, you need a different type of construction other than stick-built. So the cost per square foot varies as you go up in height for these
So
facilities.
did I hear you going 4 floors?
Yeah, well, you don't want, you have to be very mindful of your parking too, because that's going to limit you as far as the size of the building as well. I think it's 1 parking space per unit, if I'm not mistaken. So let's say it's 3 stories, you need 75 parking spaces for that development, according to your ordinance.
Unless we change them.
Man, just say,
Yeah.
but also, council members, it's important to remember, that's what this next phase in terms of the senior housing study will tell us. Because we're saying 3 floors, we don't know yet.
Right.
We don't really know what the market will bear yet. We haven't got to that point yet.
Really talked about what it would look like, whether it would be a nonprofit building, which would change things, right? I mean, you have to find a nonprofit or that links these buildings, or would it be the same process? You still have to find a company that's willing to build it? Because we don't really know what the building's gonna look like at this point. I don't mean physically look like.
Right.
And again, just to respond to that, I just think that's very true. And I think that's why this next phase, as we do a much deeper dive into the possibility of that being a senior housing facility, what the market will bear, who, the relation, just taking, Plant and Moran and their expertise in senior housing, they have relationships with developers who do senior housing, so they will know what the market will bear, is there a market, how many floors we need, all of the additional amenities, whether it's a healthcare facility or not, all of those various things that we'll have to comply with. So that'll have to be done too.
And is this market rate housing or subsidized housing?
I think when we initially started talking about this, we looked at it, I think, trying to look for Kim back there, but I think it was more of an assisted living type facility as a.
Market rate independent.
Is it, I'm sorry, is it independent, not assisted living, though?
No.
No.
It's independent living, market rate independent living, okay. I'm totally misspeaking here.
Have some subsidized in there too.
Explain, so the subsidized, come up to the mic, Kim. What is that subsidized? Explain that if you could.
It would be similar to our affordable housing projects where you allow some subsidies. They can do it based on
Holler
a
louder.
certain number of units.
Kim, louder.
I said it would work just like our affordable housing projects that we've done, where we would probably either grant a pilot or a portion of a pilot in order to have some of the units subsidized, but we wouldn't need to have them all subsidized, or it could be a neighborhood and enterprise zone. Again, we're nowhere near that point in time,
right.
so it would be more to come later on.
Thank you.
Holy cow.
Very exciting.
We had
Amazingly exciting, a little scary, but,
we had initially planned on this being a work session, by the way, but I do think we'll follow up with a work session where we can dive much deeper into detail, so.
yep.
And as City Manager Tunkey mentioned that, it's beneficial to go and tour some of these community centers to see how they operate and, some of the amenities that they offer.
What would be the one closest to the size that we're envisioning?
You're kind of in the middle of some of these centers. Usually they land around 35,000 square feet, and then they jump up to like 80 to 90,000 square feet. So like Troy, for instance, that's probably about 90,000. That has an aquatics component to it.
What's their budget? Ballpark.
That was built a long time ago, so it would be hard to, assess what that cost would be. And it was a conversion of an existing high school. So they kept the natatorium portion of it and built quite an extensive addition onto that facility. I would encourage going to OPC in Rochester to take a look at their program spaces. They have an auditorium, and I mentioned a work shop area, a billiards room, and a lot of different services that they offer seniors in that facility, along with like a day room for seniors so that caregivers can drop off their elderly parents so that they can take a break, and then something that's very well used there. They have a therapy pool. They have I think a 4 or 5 lane competition pool. But it's a really kind of a unique facility, and very much worth visiting. Redford Township just finished, that's one of our projects. Or I'm sorry, not Redford, Van Buren Township. And I would encourage maybe seeing that one just for the gymnasium component. Another one is Canton, which was built several years ago. That has an aquatics feature to it. But that one is probably 95,000 square feet. It's quite a large facility, but it does have a gym that's similar in size for that Redford Township and Van Buren Township built. So there's a lot of good, unique components, I would say, that are in the Canton Center that you probably would appreciate seeing.
Holy cow. Anything further? No? Ooh, we got a lot to digest here. Thank you.
Well, thank you. Appreciate it.
Pleasure.
Thank you.
For your competence and detail-oriented presentation. Thank you. We don't have to do anything with that, that's just presented. So off to special licenses, item 8 on the agenda. Request for a special event license, waiver of application fee by the Oak Park Arts and Cultural Diversity Commission for the 2024 Oak Park Film Festival to be held in the Water Tower Social District, September 7th, 2024, from 3 to 9. Motion to approve. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay. Item B, request for special event license, waiver of application fee for Solomon Radner for the Radcliffe Place Block Party to be held September 8th from 11 to 4, and I understand there's a new date.
September 1st. Would you like me to go to the podium and make a presentation?
Sure.
No, I'm not doing that.
September 1st. So we're just changing it to September 1st.
Yes, please.
As amended. We need a motion.
What?
Any discussion? All in favor, please say aye. Any opposed?
I'm abstaining.
Abstaining, okay. All right. Motion carried. Item 9, accounting reports, approval for payment of invoices submitted by Garen Luca Miller for legal services in the amount of $17,551.95. Is there a motion? Okay, discussion?
Got to pay those lawyers, man. You know
That's
how it is.
right. Roll call vote.
Councilmember Edgar,
Yes.
Mayor McClellan,
Yes.
Councilmember Radner,
Yes?
Councilmember Whitehead.
Okay, motion carried, thank you. Item 10, bids. Request from Mattioli Cement Company of Fenton, Michigan for contract extension of the 2023-24 miscellaneous concrete project M754. We need a motion.
So moved.
Thank you. Always good company to, we've worked with them many times before, and always good to get a contract extension because prices only go up.
That they do. Good evening, Mayor, City Council, City Manager. We have had the request from Mattioli to extend, and the contract allows for one-year extension. This request comes with one unit price modification, which changes the cost for 3 inches of limestone aggregate base under pavement from $6.44 to $9 per square yard. We analyzed the current bid tabs for other local projects, and we found that this was a fair request and consistent with other project pricing. And I've attached an Exhibit A to include the recommended quantity and unit pricing for each pay items in the contract extension.
Okay. Do we have a, Ed, do we have a motion? Yes, we do, okay. Questions, discussion?
Yeah, Mayor, I do have a question.
Yeah. Councilmember Julie Edgar.
So they're extending this for a year, and we can allow them that extension. But we already approved the cost of the miscellaneous concrete project, right? And they're proposing to add $500,000. They didn't anticipate the cost, because that's a serious increase.
So the costs are based on our project from last year, whose budget was $1 million. We are now reducing that amount to a little over $500,000, which changes the economy of scale for them quite a bit. They are not adding $500,000. They are changing the unit price of one pay item, which is the amount of pavement that they would be putting down. We balance that with 3 inches of limestone. So
So I guess I'm asking why, I mean, I'm assuming they anticipated this, but please explain why they want such a big increase.
in the unit price, in the unit cost?
Yeah.
That simply covers, okay, so we have this project in 2 phases. We have a fall phase and a spring phase. The price of concrete is likely to change over the winter before the spring phase. If we bid this out now, contractors would be building that unknown about what the concrete is going to cost in the spring into their prices. Mattioli has now been doing this miscellaneous concrete project for us for at least 7 or 8 years. And so they understand very deeply how to run this project, how to make a little bit of money off of it, but they're not screwing us over on pricing. These prices are very fair, actually better than fair, based on our review of local bid tabs. And this price increase is simply to combat those unknowns about how much that concrete price is going to change.
Madam Mayor. can I-
City Manager Eric Tungate.
Okay, so this is specific to the limestone, the
That's
limestone
right.
aggregate.
It's-
Okay.
The
so-
limestone aggregate is estimated to be, 48,600 at $9 per
That's
square
the
yard.
increased amount. So I guess, I think.
That's the total amount.
Okay, but
Yeah.
I think the question, and I don't know if we have this
How
at
much
hand,
was
maybe
the
Dave, maybe
increase?
you do, but when we first approved this contract, before we are asking them to extend it tonight, what did we approve it at before we knew that the limestone aggregate was gonna go up in cost?
What is in the budget, or what is?
What did we approve the original contract for before?
The
we-
original contract was approved for $1 million, just under $1 million.
Okay, so how much will the increase in cost of the limestone aggregate mean to the project?
Very little.
Okay.
It's not even a fifth of the project cost.
Okay, so of the 549,000, a fifth of that will be increased cost for the limestone aggregate.
That's right.
So, somebody with math skills, help?
Who's got a,
Just 10% of.
Yeah, it's
so
15,000.
15,000-ish, okay.
So it would be an increase of $15,000.
yes.
Okay.
Okay. Any further questions? Comments? Ready to vote then? Okay, roll call, please.
Mayor McClellan.
Yes.
Councilmember Radner.
Yes.
Councilmember Whitehead.
Yes.
Councilmember Edgar.
Yes.
Motion carried, thank you. City Manager Eric Tungate.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, members of council, members of the public. I have the privilege and honor of asking our brand-new Communications Director, Brittany Toth, to join me at the podium so I can embarrass her on her 3rd week, I think it is now? 3rd week?
Deep
Second?
into my 3rd week. I got
Third?
here on the 12th.
On the 12th, okay. So I know there are some people back in the great state of Nevada who are not very happy with us because that's where we stole her from. But she has been doing communication work for almost 20 years. And public relations, public policy, community engagement, marketing, and social media. She is a UNLV Runnin' Rebel and a Central Michigan Chippewa. And she is actually a Michigan native, so we're actually bringing you back. We're doing you a favor, actually, bringing you back. But we are so excited to have her. She most recently worked with the city of North Las Vegas. She's worked with the city of Henderson, Nevada, and many other entities. But she brings just a wide breadth of experience and knowledge to this position. And, you know, so far, it's just been fantastic. I'm so excited that you and your family are here and joining us in the great city of Oak Park. And I wanted to give you an opportunity to introduce yourself.
Sure. Well, thank you so much for that warm welcome and introduction. Good evening, Madam Mayor and Council. It's wonderful to meet you. I look forward to working with all of you very closely as I continue to get up to speed on all things Oak Park. And of course, to our other city executives here, city manager, city attorney, and city clerk. As Eric shared, I have a variety of experience. I am a Michigan native, born and raised in Livingston County and graduated from CMU. Moved to Nevada and spent about 20 years doing a variety of public relations and marketing work there for both public, private sector, as well as nonprofit entities. And couldn't be more happy and thrilled to be here in Oak Park, to get back to the Great Lakes State, and to get to work here with all of you. So thank you so much for having me. And we're rolling up our sleeves with a great team here. So thank you very much.
Thank
You are
you.
joining a wonderful team,
Thank you, Brittany. Welcome.
an exemplary council.
Thank you.
Okay, 11A2, I am going to have Deputy City Manager of Community Services, Crystal Van Vleck, join me at the podium. And before she goes, council members, this is what I was referring to a moment ago when I talked about our ramping up for recreation. So, Crystal, take it away.
Good evening, Council, City Manager. Yes, as Eric explained, we are starting to ramp up the spending in our staffing levels in recreation to absorb some of our additional programming that's already started. So as we elevate Oak Park's recreation amenities and programs, it is necessary to begin expanding our staffing levels to accommodate. While we are still in the planning stages of the new community center, we have estimated an increase in recreation operating costs of approximately $1 million with the expansion. Caveat there is what you heard earlier, we haven't been through the real exercises of understanding exactly what those costs are, but we did some work on the back end when we went out to the voters to find out what roughly that would look like. So with the upcoming addition of the Event Hub space, the Recreation Department is already beginning to ramp up our programs and is in the planning stages of further program growth. For that reason, we find it necessary to add another admin clerk 2 position. The passage of the Headley override millage in November for 2.4033 mils provides us with the necessary funds to accommodate these expenses. We are recommending tonight that council approve a budget amendment in the amount of $83,500 to allow for this additional staff member, and that's their complete all-in salary, benefits, et cetera.
It's exciting. So it's designated as an admin 2 clerk, but what would this person prefer? What kind of job is this?
Lori, do you wanna, I feel like you may be able to. So if anyone is familiar with Tracy, the front desk right now, she does a lot of, this position does a lot of the daily supporting of the programs, working with people at the counter, answering the phones, a lot of the working the ins and outs of everything that the rec coordinators are doing and running of all of the programs, kind of the back end work of it. Does that sum it up?
Yeah, registration, shelters.
Registration, shelters, community center rentals.
Is Tracy leaving? Or?
This would add a second position to Tracy's position, yes. No, this would add a second position. So there would be 2. We're finding the need for there to be 2 of these people.
Are there questions? Do you need?
Can I ask a quick question?
Yep.
Crystal, so one thing I just wanted to have you clarify, the summer tax bill includes the recreation operating millage?
That's correct.
Okay, so council members, if you're wondering where the funds for this budget amendment would come from, of course, we have the new millage, so.
Correct.
Perfect.
We kind of have to, given all the new things that are happening in the department.
A number of new programs and events is just stunning.
Yes, and Lori and her team are already in preparation for even the Event Hub that's coming somewhat shortly, are already gearing up and adding programs and such. So there's a need for additional staff to accommodate those things.
So is there a vote on this?
Yeah.
We need to,
Yeah, it's a budget.
we need a motion and. we don't have a
I'll make the motion.
We need, this is a motion to, for a budget amendment in the amount of 83,000?
I made the motion, Sean seconded.
83.5, yes.
Is that correct? 500, 83,500.
I
Do
made
we
the
have-
motion, Sean seconded.
Can't hear you.
I made the motion and Sean seconded.
Thank you. Are there discussion, questions? Roll call, please.
Councilmember Radner.
Yes.
Councilmember Whitehead.
Yes.
Mayor, Councilmember Edgar.
Yes.
Mayor McClellan.
Yes, motion carried, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Crystal, and thank you, Lori. 11B1, City Clerk Ed Norris. I want to just commend you before you go. You and Jolynn on running an amazing primary election went off without a hitch. And of course, as you know, council members, this was a regional voting site. So it was our first go-around. So great job, Ed.
Well, thank you. I will have to tell you that it wasn't actually a perfect election. And I must tell you about an unfortunate incident that occurred. We lost one of our longtime poll workers, chairpersons. Kathleen Polidori passed away during the election. And she was a longtime worker, a friend, a good, someone that we worked with for a long time, and was a special person, and we'll miss her a lot. And I'm telling you this because we will be honoring her, recognizing her in an upcoming meeting, so please stay tuned for that. To tell you a little bit about the election, I'm not going to spend much time, a little bit about the turnout. We had 6,083 voters. That was represents 23% of our voters. So that was down a little bit from previous elections. Give you an example, 2 years ago, we had 26%, and 4 years ago, for this primary election, we had 35%. So we were definitely down. Of the people who voted, we had 66% vote absentee. We had 33% vote in the precinct, and then we did have just 3% vote early, in the early voting. So, and we'll talk about that in a minute, because I want to talk a little bit about November 5th. But anyway, that's the recap for the November, or for the August election. Moving on to the November 5th, just very quickly, everyone's, anxious and eager to have the November 5th election come around. A couple of things that I'd like to mention. Number one, absentee, everybody wants to know when the absentee ballots will be out. That will be the last week of September. Okay, so everyone on the permanent ballot list will be getting their ballots then. Anybody that requests an absentee ballot prior to that, will be sent a ballot. And then just remember that after September 26th, anybody can come into the office and vote absentee in person. Obviously, Election Day, November 5th. I wanted just to remind everyone that we have 9 days of early voting. So if you, because we're probably going to have, larger lines for Election Day this year, you need to be aware that you can vote early, which is just like voting in the precinct, and you can do that 9 days prior to the election, starting on the Saturday, the second Saturday before the election, runs through the all week through the next Sunday. Okay, so you're going to hear a lot more about that because we'd like to really encourage people to vote early. So With that, that's all I have.
Thank you so much. 11C1, I would like to ask our Director of Municipal Services, our very own Kimberly Maroney, to join me at the podium.
Thank you, City Manager Tungate. Good evening, Mayor and City Council members. We have been working with the City of Southfield, and I came to you about a month ago in regards to approving the new sign, the entrance signs along Greenfield Road between 8 and 9 Mile Road. I mentioned then that we were also adding banners and landscaping. And in front of you is the proposal for the banners that will be put up actually very quickly. Between 8 and 9 Mile Road, and the cost of that is $13,117, which is our portion. I also did include, because the question was asked last time, what the landscape design looked like. The City of Southfield paid for the landscape design, and I included that in the packet just as an FYI for you as well.
Looks lovely.
Are they doing the median? They're going to be doing islands along Greenfield?
Is this
It's in the existing islands. There's going to be 2 signs placed, 2 big monument and welcome signs. One will be near 8 Mile and one will be near 9 Mile, and they'll both be landscaped with the design that you have in your packet.
Is there a vote on this?
Yes.
Yes. So we need a motion to partner with the City of Southfield on the purchase and installation of new banners. And is it and landscaping?
Just the banners.
This is just the banners. Along Greenfield Road between 8 and 9 Mile Roads. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Okay. Is there discussion?
So Southfield's going to cover the cost of the landscaping.
We haven't bid the landscaping out. They paid for the actual design work. And so we're going to meet with them and see how we can work out an agreement. Maybe we can do something in regards to us helping maintain it, but we need to sit down and discuss how that looks moving forward.
So it's, we're going to share the cost of the landscaping and the upkeep.
Yes, yeah. Southfield's done all the upfront costs of paying for all this design work for the banners, the signs, and the landscaping.
And the design is beautiful.
Yeah, yeah.
Really beautiful.
We were part of all of that. They've been very gracious in including us.
I'm a landscaping fiend, apparently, yeah. So we have a motion and a second. Are there questions about this project? Roll call vote, please.
Councilmember Whitehead?
Yes.
Councilmember Edgar?
Yes.
Mayor McClellan?
Yes,
Councilmember Radner?
Yes.
motion carried, thank you.
Okay, Kim, stay right there for 11C2, please.
Yes, thank you. So this one is to approve a resolution for the placemaking and public spaces program agreement for the Local Fiscal Recovery Fund distribution between Oakland County and the City of Oak Park. Pretty much what that boils down to is the grant that the Corridor Improvement Authority applied for with the Oakland County to improve the parking lots at 11 Mile Social District. It is to accept the money and enter into a mutual agreement with them to follow up on all the reporting requirements.
So this is a request to use this grant?
Pretty much, yep. The grant we received from them is $858,164.70.
And we're going to use it. Can you detail a little bit about how it's going to get used?
Yes, the 2 parking lots, the 2 west parking lots are going to be completely redone, tore out and redone, mostly with asphalt. The main drive lanes will be cement. We'll have rain gardens. We'll also be adding some social gathering spaces with fire pits, bag game, other items, a mural along the back wall, and creating some pedestrian crosswalks as well as a pedestrian walkway, and also lighting up the water tower.
So we are going to be starting to use this grant money to make these improvements?
Yes, we hope to design it and have it bid out late this fall and hopefully start construction late spring, early summer next year.
Another spring project. Good Lord.
It's going to be a busy year.
I was just going to say, remember when we didn't get any grant funds? So,
All right, this is another good news for Oak Park thing. Do we have a motion?
No.
Second. Discussion. All this stuff is starting in the spring, and it's all good stuff, and it's going to look fabulous with the mural and everything. You can't see me, but I am doing my happy dance here. Well, it's fabulous. Roll call vote, please.
Councilmember Edgar?
Yes.
Mayor McClellan?
Yes,
Councilmember Radner?
Yes.
Councilmember Whitehead?
motion carried, thank you.
Madam Mayor, members of council, I have just two quick things left for the city manager report. One is I wanted to offer my deepest condolences. Our finance director, Sandra Crawford, lost her mother over the weekend, and I wanted to offer condolences to her and her family. Very difficult situation. I also wanted to let the community know we will be opening up our cooling center tomorrow. And Lori, the hours are what?
8 a.m. to 10 p.m.
8 a.m. to 10 p.m. So the community center will be open to the public for those hours. And with that completes the city manager report for this evening. Thank you.
Thank you. Just one question. Do we get a lot of people using the cooling center?
Not a lot, but for those that need it, it's open.
Few. Okay, great. Thank you. Thank you. It's astounding what's going on. Call to the audience. Anybody here like to say anything?
Ken Sherman?
We love your collection of Oak Park t-shirts.
Thank you. Make me an offer. Good evening, Ken Sherman on Jerome Street in Oak Park. I hate to put a damper on the good festivities, but let me preface my remarks by stating that I will not be identifying any individuals by name. As a citizen who regularly attends both regular and special city council meetings, I am being both underserved and underrepresented by two sitting city council members during the past fiscal year. One city council member has been absent 13 times from special and regular city council meetings. A second city council member has been absent 8 times from special and regular city council meetings from July of 2023 to July of 2024. The official minutes of these 21 missed meetings do not reflect nor specify reasons for their absenteeism. Under the Oak Park City Charter, Section 5.2, vacancies in office, letter E, which addresses this issue, the city attorney and city administration must both legally address these 21 absences on behalf of the population of the city of Oak Park. I will be providing City Clerk Norris with a copy of these written remarks as part of today's city council meeting minutes. Thank you.
Thank you. Call to the council. There no other comments? Okay. Call to the council. I was so proud of our public safety department and the letter that the prosecutor wrote and came to deliver is just amazing. He wrote a glowing letter about the thorough investigation and the competent professional conduct of our officers and the amazing insight they had and how helpful they were. And just, I want it on the front page of the Free Press. Proud of you guys. We're all going to miss Devin because he put his whole heart and soul into everything he did, and he touched lives every single day and made a difference. My dad said, live your life so that you're making the world a better place because you walked through it, and Devin and our other officers certainly are doing that. Resident Services Coordinator, Tim Chikorsky, has handy bottle openers with the phone number. We'd love you to, and also we've got these handy dandy magnets here. if you like to take a picture with your phone and report. We want all the reports to go through his office because we're keeping track of them, and we're being very professional and numbers-oriented about issues that we have in Oak Park and what we should do about them. So call Tim or go online and make sure your reports go through. He will contact the department that you need. He will call you back and tell you what he found out. I'm delighted with this level of service that we are able to provide for our residents. Thank you and good night. Councilmember Radner. Councilmember Julie Edgar.
So you're saying you want me to talk for a while?
Please.
No. I also wanted to say that I'm sad that Officer Benson is leaving us because he's a wonderful presence, and I think that the fact that, you know, so many people came and so many residents know him really speaks to this department. And I think the community policing is just so, I mean, I know it's been done for decades, but it really makes a difference to people. It makes them feel like they're being protected and not persecuted. So I do appreciate that, and I'm excited about all the things that are happening.
Unbelievable.
There's really not more to say about it. So
Yeah.
thank you.
Councilmember Sean Whitehead.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I want to echo my fellow council members and the mayor on wishing a great retirement for Officer Devin Benson. I want to say welcome to our new communications director. And the film festival in Oak Park is September 7th at 3 p.m., I believe until 9 p.m. at the Social District. So hopefully we will see everybody out. It's our 4th annual film festival. Thank you.
Thank you. There being no further business to come before this council, this meeting is adjourned.